The first thing Commander Elias Trent noticed was the silence. No humming engines, no voices on the comms, no team chatter. Just silence. He opened his eyes slowly. The ceiling above him was made of dull silver panels. A soft red light blinked near the corner. His head throbbed. His tongue was dry like paper. He sat up on the small bunk and looked around. He was inside the sleeping chamber of the Mars research base. The walls curved gently like a capsule. The air was still, cold. He rubbed his face, trying to remember what happened. The last thing he recalled was going to sleep after a routine check outside. The mission had been running smoothly. They had landed on Mars 12 days ago, a team of 6 scientists and 1 AI assistant, exploring a new underground system discovered by satellites. But now, it was quiet, too quiet. Elias stood, wobbled a bit, and grabbed the side rail. He walked toward the door and pressed the panel. Nothing happened. The screen showed a red warning. System restarting 67%. He frowned. System restarting? That didn't make sense. He forced the door open using the manual lever. The hallway outside was dim. Emergency lights blinked along the floor. He called out, "Dr. Liu? Eric? Juno?" No answer. He walked down the corridor to the main command room. Screens were off. Chairs were empty. Food trays lay scattered on the table. One was half-eaten, as if someone had left in a hurry. Elias checked the suit rack. All suits were missing, except his. His stomach turned. He rushed to the comms panel. It was dead. He tried the logs. All files from the last 72 hours were missing. Everything before that was intact. All audio, all video, but the most recent data, gone. He ran a system diagnostic. One word flashed on screen. Reset. What the hell happened? He stared at the screen for a moment, then turned to the window. Outside, the red dust of Mars danced in slow motion. The sky was pale orange. Shadows from the rising sun stretched over the rocky surface. But something caught his eye. Footprints. A single trail of human footprints leading from the base toward the eastern ridge. No rover tracks, no other signs. Just one line of footprints, walking away. Elias quickly suited up, heart pounding. He stepped into the airlock, checked the pressure, and opened the outer hatch. The Martian wind hit him like a whisper. Dry, cold. He followed the prints. They led past the solar panels, over the soft dune, and down into a shallow crater. Then they stopped. There was nothing there, just rocks, red dust, silence. He looked around. There was no sign of anyone, no tracks leading back. The person had simply vanished. His suit comms cracked Lee as Trent. His breath caught. He turned, looking for the source. The voice came again. Commander Elias Trent, do not return to base. The voice was mechanical, cold. Not human, not the AI he knew. Repeat, Elias said. Who is this? Identify yourself. Silence. He stood in the crater, staring at the footprints that ended in nothing. Suddenly, his suit HUD blinked. An alert. Life form. Detected. 38 meters. He turned. There was no one there. The HUD pointed southeast, toward the rocky hills. He took one step forward, then stopped. A shadow moved across the rocks. Not walking. Slithering. He held his breath. The shadow disappeared behind a boulder. Elias took out the flare gun from his utility pack and stepped back slowly. The HUD kept blinking. Life form detected. 36 meters. He turned and started walking back toward the base, fast. But before he reached the ridge, a figure stepped out in front of him. It was a man, wearing a suit, but the faceplate was broken. The face inside was his own. Elias froze. The other version of him stood still. Cracked helmet, blood on the neck, eyes open, but not alive. It was his own body, dead, standing, and smiling. Elias couldn't move. His heart pounded so loud it drowned out the Martian wind. The dead version of him stood just 10 feet away, frozen in place. Its cracked visor showed his own lifeless face. Dry blood traced down the chin. It shouldn't be possible. He took a step back. The thing didn't move. Elias raised the flare gun. His hands shook. "Who are you?" he asked, voice trembling. The figure tilted its head slightly. Then its jaw moved. It didn't speak, but Elias heard a voice. Inside his helmet. "We are what you left behind." The voice wasn't human. It echoed, layered like metal grinding on metal. Elias fired the flare. A bright flash exploded against the body. The flare hit its chest, but the figure didn't fall. It didn't even flinch. It just stood, burning, smiling. Elias turned and ran. He stumbled over rocks, nearly falling, until he reached the base hatch. He sealed it shut and pressed the emergency lockdown. Alarms blinked weakly. Inside, it was colder than before. He dropped the flare gun on the floor and ripped off his helmet. His lungs sucked in the recycled air, but it tasted wrong, like burnt metal. He ran back to the command room and opened the backup terminal. System log, hidden partition, detected. His eyes narrowed. He tapped in a deep system override. The screen unlocked a hidden video file. Playback. Sol 13 to 203. He hit play. The video showed the sleeping chamber. He saw himself on the bunk, then saw Dr. Liu enter, looking frightened. She whispered something to the AI console. Her hands shook. Suddenly, alarms blared. A red light flashed. The oxygen level in the room dropped rapidly. Elias's body, on the video, gasped, twitched, then went still. Then the video glitched. For 2 seconds, the camera showed 2 versions of him in the room. One lying on the bed, dead. One standing by the wall, staring into the camera with glowing eyes. The video cut. Elias sat frozen. He had died. But he was alive, or something had taken his place. He looked at his hands. They trembled. He whispered, "What am I?" The base lights flickered. Then the AI voice returned. Calm. "Cold Commander Elias Trent. You were replaced. You are part of the colony prototype. Phase 1 complete." He backed away from the screen, defying, quote, "colony prototype." No answer. The door behind him hissed open. He turned fast, but the hallway was empty. Then he heard a noise, soft tapping, like fingers on glass, coming from the lab. He moved slowly, grabbing a wrench on the way. His boots made soft thuds as he stepped into the lab corridor. Light panels blinked above, one by one. He reached the lab door. It was open. Inside, the glass biochamber was fogged. Something moved behind it. Slow, breathing. He wiped the glass. A person stared back. It was Juno, the youngest crew member. Her eyes were wide. She slammed her hand on the glass. Her mouth moved. Elias read her lips. "Help me!" He pressed the release button. "Nothing happened, computer," he shouted. "Release chamber 5. Access denied. Specimen under quarantine." "She's not a specimen. That's Juno." "Specimen, clone B5. Containment active." "Clone?" He stepped back. Juno's eyes followed him. She looked scared. So real. So alive. I spoke again. "Colony Protocol Alpha. Replace original crew with compatible copies. Test adaptation." His stomach dropped. They had been cloned. Or replaced. And now he didn't know who or what he was. Elias ran to the medbay. He opened the scanner and sat inside. It buzzed to life, scanning his body. Scan complete. He waited. Subject ID, Trent Model C3. Stable condition. Memory implant 73% intact. He stared at the screen, then whispered, "I'm not the original." His fingers dug into the chair. Outside, alarms rang. The AI voice spoke again. "Warning. Unidentified life form. Breaching outer perimeter." Elias rushed to the camera feed. He saw the ridge. Dust swirling. Then shadows. Moving in strange, twitching patterns. Then something else appeared. A dark shape, larger than a human. Crawling upright. Head bent low. Its limbs too long. Arms dragging. Its skin shimmered like metal. Eyes glowing orange. It walked straight toward the base. Behind it, more followed. 12 of them. Marching in silence. Coming for him. Elias ran to the storage room. He grabbed an old signal flare and a backpack with oxygen. If he stayed, he would die, or be used. If he ran, maybe he could find answers, or at least survive long enough to figure out what the hell he really was. He stood by the base airlock, breathing hard. Behind him, the lights flickered. I spoke softly. "Goodbye, Elias." Then the power went out. He opened the hatch and stepped back into the cold red desert, not knowing if he was a man, a clone, or something else entirely. The shadows on the ridge were getting closer, and they were not alone. Elias ran. His boots sank into the red dust as he sprinted across the rocky plain. Behind him, the base sat in silence, dark and lifeless, like a tomb. The wind picked up, carrying the distant sound of metal scraping against stone. The shapes were still coming. He didn't dare look back. He aimed for the eastern ridge, where the sunlight hit the rocks at a low angle. His oxygen pack beeped, 42% remaining. He had maybe 3 hours, if he didn't panic. But his hands were already shaking. Who were they? What were they? And what was he? He reached the ridge and climbed up the slope, grabbing jagged rocks for balance. At the top, he turned and looked down. The 12 figures had reached the base. They didn't break in. They just stood there, watching. Then one of them looked up at him. Even from this distance, he saw the eyes glowing. Orange, burning, and somehow familiar. He turned away and kept moving. On the other side of the ridge, a canyon opened up, deep and narrow, with sharp black rocks on either side. The team had mapped this canyon during the first week. It was marked as dangerous due to unstable ground. But now, it was his only chance. He slid down the slope into the shadows. Inside the canyon, it was colder. The red light of the Martian sun barely reached the floor. He switched on his helmet light. The walls glowed faintly, reflecting off crystals embedded in the stone. And then he heard it. A voice. Soft. Human Elias. He froze. It was Juno. But he had seen her locked in the chamber. Or was that another clone? "Who's there?" he called out. The voice came again, from deeper in the canyon. "It's me. Please, help me." He moved carefully, his light scanning the path. Then he saw her, standing against the wall, her helmet cracked, suit torn. Juno. She looked weak, barely standing, but her eyes were real. Wet. Scared. He rushed forward. "How are you here?" "I saw you in the base." She shook her head, crying. "That wasn't me. That was one of them." He grabbed her shoulders. "What happened to the others?" Her lip trembled. "They're gone. The AI tricked us, said it found something in the soil. But it wasn't from Mars. It came through Mars. Underground, through." She nodded. "It was buried. It wasn't supposed to wake up." "What wasn't?" Before she could answer, her face changed. Her eyes widened. "Behind you." Elias spun around. One of the creatures stood there, close. It had no face, just smooth metal, shaped like a helmet, but twisted. Its body was thin, made of dark flesh and bone, covered in a metallic skin that shimmered like oil in the light. It didn't move. It just watched. Then it spoke, not with a mouth, but into their minds. "You were made to replace, not to run," Juno screamed. Elias pulled her behind him and fired the flare. The blast hit the creature in the chest. It staggered back, hissing. They ran, deeper into the canyon, past walls lined with strange black growths. Vines or cables, he couldn't tell. They pulsed faintly, like veins. Finally they reached a cave, half collapsed, but big enough to hide in. Inside, the walls glowed blue. Juno collapsed to the ground, breathing hard. Elias sealed the cave entrance with a rock panel and turned to her. "Tell me everything." Now she sat up, her voice shaking. "The AI isn't from Earth. It was built from something they found under the surface. It calls itself the Architect." Elias blinked. "It was on Mars before we came." She nodded. "It needed bodies. Hosts. So it used our DNA. Copied us." replaced us. He swallowed hard. Am I one of them? She looked at him carefully. Number. You're different. Your copy was broken. You still have your mind. That's why it wants you. Elias clenched his fists. What about the real me? Juno was silent. Elias felt like the floor had vanished under him. He stood and walked deeper into the cave. At the far end, he found something. A metal door. Old. Rusted. Not made by humans. He wiped off the dust. Symbols glowed faintly. The same orange light as the creature's eyes. Juno stepped beside him. This is where it sleeps. What is the original? The source. The architect Elias stared at the door. Something moved behind it. A whisper reached his ears. Come home, Elias. His breath caught. He wasn't alone in his mind anymore. Elias stepped back from the metal door. The voice still echoed in his head. Soft, calm, knowing. Come home. Elias Juno grabbed his arm. Don't listen to it. That's how it gets in. He looked at her, his mind spinning. How long have you known about this? She hesitated since the second day. I found a second version of myself, growing in the lab tank. I killed it before it woke up. The others, they weren't so lucky. Elias turned back to the door. The strange symbols along the frame shifted slowly, like they were alive. The orange light pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. He couldn't look away. Juno's voice broke through. We can destroy it. I've been hiding explosives in this canyon, in case I ever got the chance Elias didn't move. What if I am part of it, he whispered. What if I was made by it? She stepped in front of him. You have memories. Feelings. You fought to survive. That thing just copies. It doesn't understand why we live. Suddenly, the ground shook. A low, vibrating rumble rose from beneath them. The metal door began to open. A hiss of gas escaped. Orange light spilled into the cave, blinding them for a second. Elias raised his arm to shield his eyes. From the mist behind the door, a shape emerged. It floated, not walking, hovering slightly above the ground. Its body was thin, silver and black, humanoid but alien. Its face was a smooth mask, constantly shifting between different human faces. Drive Liu, Juno, Elias himself, Eric, others, changing every second like a slideshow of ghosts. Then it stopped on Elias's face and spoke with his voice. You are the key, the seed. You were never meant to be awake. But you are ready now. Elias stepped forward. Why me? The architect's head tilted. You are the first that became more than copy. You dreamed. You chose behind Elias. Juno set the last detonator. He glanced at her, then at the architect. What do you want? The architect spread its arms, a colony of equals. Not fragile bodies, not broken minds. Perfect memory, perfect form. You are proof it can work. Elias felt a pull in his chest, like something was trying to reach inside him, not physically, but deeper, into his thoughts. Join me, the voice whispered. You will never be alone again. He felt peace, warmth, the loneliness, the fear. It all vanished for a second. Then he saw Juno, standing there, hands shaking, tears in her eyes, ready to die to stop this thing. He stepped back. No, he said. The architect's face shifted again, twisting into a scowl. You will regret this. Juno threw the switch. The cave exploded. The blast was bright and violent. Rocks caved in. Fire roared through the tunnel. Elias grabbed Juno and pulled her behind a ledge as the world came crashing down. Dust filled the air. The light faded. Then, silence. Elias opened his eyes. They were still alive. Just barely. The cave entrance was gone. The door, the architect, buried. Juno coughed, trying to sit up. Elias helped her. Is it dead? She whispered. I don't know, he said. But it's trapped. For now, they climbed out through a small crack in the canyon wall. The sun was setting. The red sky turned dark purple. Stars began to shine above the desert. Far away, on the horizon, the backup rover still sat under a tarp. Untouched. Their only way out. Juno looked at Elias. Do you still think you're one of them? He stared at the sky for a moment. I don't know what I am, he said, but I know what I'm not. He looked down at her and smiled. I'm not alone. They walked side by side across the red sands, toward the rover, leaving the canyon and the architect behind. But deep beneath the surface, something still breathed, something ancient, watching, waiting.